Important notice. This message is specifically for those living in America who are between the ages of 45 and 70 and above. However, if you're watching from outside America or you're younger than this age range, we lovingly ask that you please continue watching because what we are about to reveal will start from this location and spread to the uttermost parts of the earth. This concerns all of us, but it begins with a specific group of people in a specific place. Before we go any further, let us ask you to do something for us with all the love in our hearts. Please drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from and how old you are. This is not just for curiosity, we want to include you in our prayers, especially if you fall within the age range mentioned above 45 to 70 and beyond and you live in America. Your prayer needs matter to us, and we want to lift you up before the throne of God. Whether you're in New York, Texas, California, Florida, or any other state, we want to know so we can pray specifically for your region and for you personally. This is today's experience. My name is Ebenyago Thompson, and I'm a 50-year-old Master Sergeant in the United States Army. I've spent the last 28 years serving this great nation. And if you're watching this, I need you to understand that what I'm about to share with you is the most important message I've ever delivered, more important than any mission briefing, more critical than any intelligence report I've ever filed. Now, I want to make something clear before I continue. I'm still on active duty. I'm still bound by my oath to this country, and there are things I know, things I've seen in my years of service that I will never reveal. That's not what this message is about. I'm not here to expose classified information or break the trust that's been placed in me. But what I will say is this: if you knew even a fraction of what's really happening in this world, you will really hear me out as I share few of these things to you as God reveals to me. Let me start by telling you a bit about myself so you understand why I'm the one sharing this. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a prophet. I'm just a soldier who's seen things that most Americans will never see. It was 2019, a routine patrol in Helmand Province. We thought we were just checking on a local village, making sure everything was secure. What we didn't know was that the Taliban had planted IEDs along the route we always took. The explosion didn't kill me, but it should have. I was thrown 15 feet from the blast, and when the medics got to me, they said my heart had stopped for almost 3 minutes. They brought me back, patched me up, and sent me home for recovery. But here's what they couldn't fix. Something happened to my body during that explosion. The doctors call it an unexplained cardiac condition. What that means in plain English is that my heart just stops sometimes. No warning, no reason, just stops. I've been in and out of hospitals more times than I can count over the past 6 years. Sometimes it happens when I'm doing something physical. Other times I'm just sitting at my desk filling out paperwork, and suddenly everything goes black. The Army Medical Board has cleared me to continue serving in a limited capacity. I work mostly in logistics and training now, helping prepare younger soldiers for deployment. But every few months, without fail, that old injury from Afghanistan comes back to haunt me. My heart seizes up, my chest feels like it's being crushed in a vice, and I collapse. Sometimes I wake up in a hospital bed hours later, sometimes days later. There are things happening in the shadows that most people will never know about. Decisions being made in rooms that don't officially exist. Plans being executed that will never make the evening news. And I'm not talking about conspiracy theories or wild speculation. I'm talking about facts. Hard, cold facts that would keep you awake at night if you knew them. Now let me tell you about what happened to me on September 8th of this year, just 3 months ago. God sees. I reveals that which He showed me in this season now. I was at Fort Bragg, conducting a routine training exercise with a group of new recruits. We were about 2 hours into the day when I felt it starting. That familiar tightness in my chest. The room started spinning. I tried to sit down, but my legs become weaker. I feel out before I could make it to a chair. The next thing I remember, I was waking up in Womack Army Medical Center. The doctors told me I'd been out for 6 hours. My heart had stopped completely, and they'd had to use the defibrillator 4 times to bring me back. But here's where my story takes a turn that I never expected. And honestly, I'm still trying to fully process what happened. You see, during those 6 hours when my body was lying in that hospital bed, I wasn't there. I was somewhere else entirely. And what I experienced during that time is why I'm making this video today. I need to tell you something that the media won't touch. Something that most churches are afraid to talk about. Something that sounds so impossible that even I questioned whether it was real when I woke up. But I know what I saw. I know what I was shown. And I know that if I don't share this message, I'll have failed in the most important mission I've ever been given. The secular media won't broadcast what I'm about to tell you because it doesn't fit their narrative. They'd rather keep people distracted with politics and entertainment and scandals. And honestly, many religious institutions won't talk about it either because it challenges their comfortable theology and disrupts their carefully planned programs. But God doesn't care about our comfort. He doesn't consult our schedules or ask permission to move. And what He showed me about December 12th through 19th, those 7 days, is something that every person needs to hear, especially if you're over the age of 60. Let me take you back to that hospital room. My body was lying there. I was suddenly standing beside my own body. I could see everything happening, but I felt completely calm. more than calm. I felt at peace in a way I'd never experienced, even in the quietest moments of my life. Then I became aware that I wasn't alone. I looked around and saw 7 beings standing around me in a semicircle. They were tall, maybe 7 or 8 feet, and they radiated light. Not like a flashlight or a lamp. This was different. It was like they were made of light itself. I knew immediately what they were. Angels, 7 angels sent to escort me somewhere. The lead angel communicated to me that it was time, that I needed to come with them because the Father had something important to show me. I didn't question it. I didn't argue. There was something about their presence that made doubt impossible. I simply nodded, and together we began to move. But we weren't walking. We were traveling through space in a way that physics couldn't explain. We came to what looked like an entrance. If I had to describe it, I'd say it looked like we were approaching a doorway, but as we got closer, it expanded. It wasn't really a room, but it wasn't a hallway either. It was more like a passage. But when you stepped into it, your perspective shifted and it felt enclosed, like a room. The walls, if you could call them that, seemed to be made of something between mist and crystal. They were semi-transparent, and I could see light moving through them like water flowing through channels. The 7 angels surrounded me as we entered this space, and the moment I stepped inside, everything changed. It was as if a veil had been lifted from my eyes. I could suddenly see things that had been invisible before. I could perceive layers of reality that I never knew existed. That's when one of the angels began to speak to me. He revealed to me that what I was about to witness was the reason heaven had given me this vision. He told me that there was something happening in the spiritual realm that most people couldn't see, something that was unfolding right now in the physical world. And that time was critically short. The angel showed me something that made my blood run cold. He revealed to me how the devil and his cohorts were working tirelessly behind the scenes, operating in ways that most people would never imagine. He showed me how they had been strategically positioning themselves to take control of major states across America. The angel explained to me that this wasn't just about political power or economic influence. This was about spiritual control over the nation. The main reason of showing was revealed later, but before then he had to show me this so I can understand. He revealed to me how once they gained control of these key states, their influence would become so powerful that it would spread like a disease across the entire country, and eventually around the entire earth. The angel showed me that this wasn't some distant future event. This was happening right now, in real time, while most people were completely oblivious to what was taking place. Then the angel showed me something even more disturbing. He revealed to me that very soon, they would begin implementing a system that would require people to receive a chip. He showed me how this chip would be placed in people's hands, their necks, their foreheads. But here's what really shook me. The angel revealed to me that they had a strategy in place to make people accept it willingly. He showed me how they wouldn't force it on people at first. Instead, they would make it desirable. They would make it convenient. They would make it seem like the smart choice, the safe choice, the progressive choice. The angel revealed to me how they would use fear, use convenience, use social pressure, use economic incentives to get people to voluntarily line up and receive this mark. He showed me how they would start by offering benefits to those who took it: easier access to banking, faster processing at airports, special privileges at stores and restaurants. He revealed to me how they would gradually make life more and more difficult for those who refused it, until eventually, people would feel they had no choice but to accept it. The angel explained to me that this wasn't just about tracking or control. This was about marking people, about claiming ownership of human souls. He revealed to me that once a person accepted this mark willingly, something would change in them spiritually. It would be like signing a contract with the enemy, and breaking free from it would become almost impossible. As I watched this vision unfold, I felt sick to my stomach. I asked the angel why God was allowing this to happen, why he wasn't stopping it. And that's when the angel revealed something to me that changed my entire understanding of what was taking place. He told me that God was indeed doing something about it. He showed me that God was seeking vessels who would rise up and pray, vessels who would stand in the gap and intercede, vessels who would declare that only his will, which is good and perfect, would prevail in this nation and across the earth. But then the angel revealed to me something that broke my heart. He showed me the youth, the young people who should be on fire for God, who should be leading the charge in prayer and intercession. He revealed to me how they were not giving in to God's call on their lives. He showed me why. There were too many distractions: social media, entertainment, career ambitions, relationships. The pursuit of success and comfort, all of these things were pulling at their attention, fragmenting their focus, and displacing the burden that God had tried to place in their hearts. The angel explained to me that it wasn't that young people didn't care or that they were intentionally rebellious. He showed me how the enemy had carefully crafted an entire culture designed specifically to keep them distracted, to keep them too busy, too stressed, too entertained, too exhausted to hear God's voice calling them to intercession. He revealed to me how young believers would feel momentary conviction, would sense God calling them to prayer, but then within minutes, their phones would buzz with a notification, or they'd remember something they needed to do, or they'd get caught up in some drama or concern, and that divine moment would pass. The angel showed me how this was happening millions of times a day across the nation, God trying to activate young warriors, but the noise of the world drowning out his voice. And that's when the angel revealed to me why God had decided to use the elderly. He told me that God needed available vessels, and the senior citizens, the men and women of age, were the ones who were available. He showed me that they had already lived their lives, already raised their families, already built their careers. They were no longer chasing after the things that captivate the young. The angel revealed to me that these elderly believers had something precious that the younger generation had not yet developed. They had time, they had wisdom, they had perspective, and most importantly, they had undivided attention. He showed me how they would wake up early in the morning with nothing competing for their focus, how they would spend hours in prayer because they weren't rushing off to jobs or juggling multiple commitments, how they had learned through decades of walking with God to recognize His voice above the noise. He explained to me that God wasn't rejecting the young, He was simply working with who was available. And right now in this critical hour, the elderly were the ones who were positioned to hear Him, to respond to Him, and to partner with Him in what He was about to do. Then the angel began revealing to me the details of how Jesus intended to achieve His purposes through the elderly during those 7 days from December 12th through 19th. And what He showed me was both beautiful and powerful beyond anything I could have imagined. He revealed to me that Jesus had been watching these faithful elderly believers for decades. He showed me how Jesus had been taking note of every prayer they had prayed, every tear they had cried, every time they had chosen to trust Him when everything looked impossible. The angel explained to me that nothing had been wasted, nothing had been forgotten. It had all been preparation for this moment. The angel revealed to me that Jesus' strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. He showed me that Jesus would begin by visiting these elderly believers personally, not in dreams or visions, but in actual encounters where they would sense His presence so powerfully that it would be undeniable. He told me that Jesus would come to them in their homes, in their rooms at nursing facilities, in hospitals where they lay sick. He would meet them exactly where they were. He showed me that during these visits, Jesus would do several specific things. First, He would heal them. The angel revealed to me that Jesus would restore their bodies, reverse their diseases, strengthen their weakened frames. He explained that this wasn't just about making them comfortable, this was about equipping them for battle. Jesus was preparing His army, and they needed to be physically able to do what He was calling them to do. Second, the angel revealed to me that Jesus would impart gifts to them. He showed me how Jesus would activate spiritual gifts that had been dormant for years, or even gifts that these elderly believers had never operated in before. The angel explained to me that Jesus would give them words of knowledge, prophecy, healing power, the ability to work miracles, supernatural discernment, and authority over demonic forces. Third, He revealed to me that Jesus would give them specific assignments. The angel showed me that Jesus wouldn't just heal and empower them and then leave them to figure out what to do. He would give each person clear, specific instructions about what He wanted them to do, who He wanted them to reach, where He wanted them to go, what He wanted them to say. That angel explained to me that this was military precision. He showed me that Jesus was deploying a spiritual army with the same level of strategic planning that any military commander would use. Every person would know their role, every person would know their mission, and every person would have the equipment and authority they needed to accomplish what they'd been sent to do. But then the angel revealed to me something even more powerful. He showed me that Jesus wasn't just activating individuals, He was creating a network. He revealed to me that Jesus would connect these elderly believers in supernatural ways. Even if they had never met before, even if they lived in different states or different countries, they would find each other. The angel showed me how they would be drawn together by the Spirit, how they would form prayer groups and intercession teams, how they would coordinate their efforts without needing phones or computers or any modern communication. The Holy Spirit Himself would be their communication network. The angel revealed to me that this was why the enemy was so afraid of what was about to happen. He showed me that the devil had spent decades trying to isolate elderly believers, trying to convince them they were useless, trying to get them put away in facilities where they would be forgotten. He explained to me that the enemy knew the power these men and women carried, knew the authority they had earned through decades of faithfulness, knew the damage they could do to His kingdom if they were ever fully activated, and that's exactly what was about to happen. The angel showed me that Jesus' plan had multiple layers. He revealed to me that the first layer was activation, getting these elderly believers empowered and commissioned. The second layer was demonstration, having them move in supernatural power so that people could see undeniable evidence of God's presence. The third layer was multiplication. As people witnessed what was happening through the elderly, they would be drawn to God themselves, and revival would spread. But the angel revealed to me that there was a fourth layer that was even more strategic. He showed me that as these elderly believers moved in power, they would be specifically targeting the plans of the enemy. He revealed to me that their prayers would be precision strikes against the demonic strategies that had been set in motion. The angel explained to me that when people began to see genuine supernatural power flowing through these humble, elderly believers, something would break in their hearts. He showed me that the deception the enemy had been weaving would start to unravel. People who had been ready to accept the mark, who had been ready to go along with the enemy's system, would suddenly pause and question everything that he revealed to me, that this was why the timing was so critical. The angel showed me that the enemy's plans were reaching a tipping point. If nothing interrupted them, if no one rose up to pray and intercede, those plans would succeed. But Jesus was raising up this army of elderly intercessors to stand in the gap at the exact moment when their prayers would be most effective. The angel showed me that during those 7 days from December 12th through 19th, these elderly believers would be praying specific prayers. He revealed to me that they would be praying for the exposure of hidden plans, for the confusion of the enemy's strategies, for the protection of the innocent, for the salvation of those who were being deceived, and for the will of God to prevail in every state, every city, every community across America. He explained to me that their prayers would be like spiritual warfare operations. Each prayer would be targeted, strategic, powerful. And because these were believers who had learned to pray in alignment with God's will, who had learned to hear His voice, who had learned to persist until they saw breakthrough, their prayers would get results. The angel revealed to me that Jesus' plan was to use the elderly to buy time for the younger generation. He showed me that as these elderly warriors stood in the gap and pushed back the darkness through their prayers and their demonstrations of God's power, it would create space for young people to wake up, to shake off the distractions, to finally hear God's call on their lives. He explained to me that this was an act of mercy. God wasn't giving up on the youth, He was giving them more time to respond, and He was using their grandparents' generation to fight battles on their behalf while they woke up to what was really happening in the world around them. The angel showed me something else that Jesus would do through the elderly. He revealed to me that Jesus would use them to restore families. He showed me how grandparents who were activated in this way would have supernatural authority to speak into their children's and grandchildren's lives. Their words would carry weight that they had never carried before. Their prayers would break through walls of rebellion and unbelief that had stood for decades. He explained to me that many families that had been torn apart by division, by different beliefs, by estrangement and bitterness, would suddenly come back together. The angel showed me how adult children who had written off their parents' faith as outdated would be shocked when they saw genuine supernatural power operating through them. He revealed to me how that shock would break through their skepticism and open their hearts to God. The angel also revealed to me that Jesus would use the elderly to impact entire communities. He showed me how these elderly believers would be placed strategically in retirement homes, in neighborhoods, in small towns, in big cities, and that from those positions, they would be like spiritual lighthouses, radiating God's presence and pushing back darkness. He explained to me that where these elderly believers prayed, crime would decrease. Where they spoke blessings, businesses would prosper. Where they declared God's truth, lies would be exposed. Where they stood for righteousness, corruption would be uncovered. The angel showed me that they would be like spiritual special forces, conducting targeted operations that would dismantle the enemy's strongholds, piece by piece. But the angel also revealed to me that there would be a cost. He showed me that not everyone would celebrate what was happening. He explained to me that religious leaders who were more concerned with maintaining control than with following God would resist this move. He showed me that government authorities who were aligned with the enemy's agenda would see these elderly believers as a threat and would move to suppress them. The angel revealed to me that persecution would come. He showed me that some of these elderly believers would be arrested. Some would be mocked and ridiculed in the media. Some would be cut off from their families who couldn't accept what was happening. But he also showed me that every single one of them would count it as an honor to suffer for the name of Jesus. He explained to me that their faithfulness under persecution would be its own testimony. The angel showed me how young people would watch elderly believers being arrested for praying for the sick, or being mocked for speaking prophetic truth, and something would stir in their hearts. They would see courage that they didn't know still existed. They would see faith that couldn't be shaken, and they would want what these elderly believers had. The angel revealed to me that this was part of Jesus' plan too, to use the example of faithful elderly believers to inspire the next generation. He showed me how young people who had grown cynical about Christianity, who thought it was just empty religion and outdated traditions, would see something in these elderly warriors that was undeniably real and undeniably powerful. Then the angel showed me something that made everything come together. He revealed to me that December 12th through 19th wasn't just about saving America or stopping the enemy's plans or even about revival. It was about preparing the bride of Christ for the return of Jesus. He explained to me that Jesus was coming back soon, and He was coming back for a church that was pure, powerful, and ready. The angel showed me that by activating the elderly, by demonstrating His power through the most unlikely vessels, by creating a movement that couldn't be attributed to human cleverness or organizational skill, Jesus was purifying His church and preparing it for His return. The angel revealed to me that what would happen during those 7 days would set in motion events that would culminate in the return of Christ. He showed me that the revival that would begin with the elderly would eventually spread to every age group, every nation, every people group. But it had to start somewhere, and Jesus had chosen to start it with the faithful ones who had endured to the end. As the vision began to fade, the angel told me one final thing. He revealed to me that I had been shown all of this for a purpose. He explained to me that I was to warn people, to prepare people, to give them time to get ready for what was coming. He showed me that those who received this message and acted on it would be blessed. Those who dismissed it would miss out on the greatest move of God in human history. The 7 angels began to move, and I felt that familiar sensation of being pulled back. The vision started to fade, but the weight of what I had been shown pressed on me like never before. I understood now why this was happening, why it had to be the elderly, why December 12th through 19th was so critical. Suddenly I was gasping for air, my eyes flying open in that hospital room. Jennifer screamed and grabbed my hand. Doctors rushed in, checking monitors, asking me questions I couldn't yet answer. My chest hurt, my head was pounding, but more than anything I felt the weight of responsibility. I had been given a message, and I knew I had to deliver it. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I haven't been able to think about anything else. Every day I feel the urgency growing. Every day I sense time running out. Every day I know that December 12th is getting closer, and with it, the beginning of something that will change the world forever. So here I am delivering the message I was given. Between December 12th and 19th, God is going to activate His army of elderly believers. He's going to empower them, equip them, and deploy them for the greatest spiritual battle in modern history. And through them, He's going to push back the plans of the enemy. By time for the younger generation to wake up and prepare His church for His return. If you're elderly and you've been feeling forgotten, useless, or past your prime, get ready. Your moment is coming. Jesus is about to visit you personally, heal you, empower you, and give you your final and greatest assignment. If you're young and you've been distracted, caught up in the cares of this world, wake up. Time is running out. The enemy has plans for your life that you don't even know about, but God has better plans. Put down the distractions. Turn off the noise. Get on your knees and start praying. If you don't know God, if you've been living your life without any thought of eternity, this is your warning. Things are about to happen that will force you to make a choice. You will see undeniable evidence of the supernatural. You will have to decide whether you're going to follow God or follow the enemy's system. Choose wisely, because your eternity hangs in the balance. Love God with everything you have, not out of fear, but because He is worthy. He created you. He loves you. He sent His Son to die for you. And He's giving you this warning because He wants you to be ready for what's coming. Be faithful in the small things and the big things, when people are watching and when no one's looking, because faithfulness is what God is looking for. And in these last days, faithfulness will be rewarded in ways we can't even imagine. December 12th through 19th. Mark those dates. Watch for what happens. And when you see it beginning, remember that you were warned. Remember that God gave a simple soldier a glimpse behind the curtain so he could prepare His people for the greatest move of God in human history. The hour is late. The enemy's plans are far advanced, but God's plans are greater, and He's about to show the world that He saves the best for last. May God bless you. May He protect you, and may He find you faithful when He comes. This is Master Sergeant Mark Thompson, signing off. Stay faithful, stay ready, and above all, stay in love with Jesus. The time is shorter than you think.